Yep, you read that correctly. I got my fallopian tubes removed and an endometrial ablation at 28 years old. Now, I'm going to go into a more in-depth explanation of what both of those procedures are, but first I'm going to tell you why I decided to get this procedure done. Though I owe nobody an explanation, I've always known that I didn't want to carry and give birth to a child. I also have a slew of health issues that would make getting pregnant, let alone carrying the baby to term, an absolute nightmare. My husband and I have been on the same page about not wanting children since we first got together. When the opportunity arose to get an endometrial ablation for other reasons, we took it. I spoke with my gynecologist and got some options for permanent birth control. This was the best option for me in every single aspect. It is one of the best decisions that I have ever made, and it has been nothing but a weight off my shoulders. So now that I've told you my why, I'm going to talk about what exactly was done to me during my procedure, as well as pre-operation and post-operation. So a salpingectomy is the removal of one or both of the fallopian tubes. The fallopian tubes connect the ovary to the uterus and is where fertilization occurs during the human life cycle. So sperm fertilizes the egg in the fallopian tube, and then once the egg is fertilized, it travels down the tube and embeds itself into the lining of the uterus. So the first procedure that was done to me was the salpingectomy. So after they knocked me out, they made 3 incisions, less than 1 inch long, one on each side of my stomach and one through my belly button. He pumped up my body cavity with CO2 so that he had room to work. Then he located my fallopian tubes and removed them. He said he placed several dissolvable stitches internally and then sealed my incisions with essentially superglue made for human skin. After the salpingectomy, they moved on to the uterine ablation or endometrial ablation, which is the process of removing the inner lining of the uterus called the endometrium. This procedure is done to reduce or stop heavy menstrual cycles for women. I had severe anemia to the point that I was having to get iron infusions every 3 months, so this was the reason why we started this journey. So this procedure is done by inserting a wire mesh up the vagina and inserted through the cervix into the uterus. The wire mesh is formed to the shape of the uterus, and electricity is then run through the wire mesh, which burns off the endometrium. So now let's talk about what before the surgery was like and what to expect. For me, all it took was a conversation with my gynecologist. My gynecologist was super supportive of my decision. I know this is not usually the case, especially in the South, and especially if you're a young woman. Your choices are normally questioned with, well, you might change your mind someday, or they refuse to do the procedure altogether. After we talked about it and he knew that I understood what this process would entail, we scheduled the surgery, and a few days later, I had to sign a consent form in his office. This consent form was basically just a piece of paper saying that I understood that I was signing away my rights to legally reproduce, so that I couldn't hold my gynecologist responsible if one day I did change my mind. I went to the hospital the morning of my surgery to fill out so much paperwork, but that's typical of any procedure you have. They gave me a special antibacterial soap to use the night before and the morning of my surgery called Hibiclens. They wanted me to especially focus around where the incisions were going to be, around my stomach area and obviously in my belly button. I arrived to the hospital 2 hours before my surgery. I had to bring my mom with me because I wouldn't be able to drive because I was going under anesthesia. They took me back after asking me 1,000,000 times what my name was and what the surgery was that I was getting done, but I know that that's hospital policy. And they put me under anesthesia. My doctor warned me that there would be some pain at the incision sites, and I might feel soreness in my shoulders from where they pumped me up with the CO2. He also told me I might have some cramping and bleeding from the ablation. I personally only experienced 2 days of muscle pain in kind of like my shoulder area and my neck, but it really wasn't that bad. It felt like what it normally feels like, soreness after you work out, if you know what that feels like. My recovery was super easy. I had my procedure on a Friday, and then I took the weekend to rest, and I was back at work on Monday. My only restrictions were that I couldn't lift more than 10 pounds for a week, and I could not submerge myself in water or insert anything vaginally for 2 weeks due to the risk of infection. I had a 3-week follow-up where they looked at my incisions, and they told me that I was healing well, and that I didn't have to come back unless I had any problems, which I didn't. I hope this is helpful for those of you that are looking at getting your tubes removed or getting an endometrial ablation. But most importantly, I hope that this video calms any anxiousness or anxiety that you may be having about the procedure. If you have any questions or comments, let me know and I'll try to get back to you. If you watched all the way through this video, thank you so much. If you like this kind of content, make sure you're subscribed so that you're notified when I post new content. Be kind to one another, and I'll see you guys in the next video.